The Pokemon franchise is huge and has seen a lot of generations of games pumped out, and in nearly all of those generations of Pokemon games, if not all of them, the theme of team villains reigns supreme. But if we take a step back and analyze just how much team villains have offered Pokemon up until now, what would we find? Let's get into it. First up, Tier F, the worst of the worst, Team Yell. Well, okay, worst of the worst may be an exaggeration, but this team is still pretty subpar, in our opinion, and it seems as though most of the fandom agrees. Team Yell, to be specific, are notoriously known to be all talk, no show. In fact, a Reddit user went as far as to say that if one replaced all the members of Team Yell with NPCs or irrelevant antagonists who did the exact same things they did, the game wouldn't even change in a noticeable way, a telltale sign of a weak villain team. The thing about them too is that at the beginning of the game, they actually seemed promising, like they would willingly go to any extent, no matter how nefarious in nature, to keep other participants from entering the gym challenge. Except, after that moment, the point is never brought up again, at least in a relevant way. The same Reddit user called them a waste of a potentially good idea, a scathing review, while another commented on how the final battle was extremely lackluster. The moment we meet the actual team leader does not hit as hard as it should, and the entire thing feels more like a poorly thought out screw-up rather than an actual threat. But we understand that this isn't a shared opinion, and that's alright. Let's also add Team Cosmos to this tier. Why, you may ask? Well, here's the thing. The team leader's goals in Cosmos are wholly vague and undefined. Like, why are they so worried about energy when that won't be an adequate concern until much later in the future? Say they got hold of all that energy. Where are they going to store it for a millennium? A YouTuber describes the motivation of the team's evil acts to be a rich guy's insane lack of patience. In their defense, let's give them the moderately decent soundtrack benefit. And besides that, even the probable message did not land as well as it could have. For example, if they wanted to have a wide social commentary on how corporations and conglomerates are inherently evil and want to exploit resources, maybe don't have your main antagonists back out of their whole reason of existence? So the CEO was a good guy all along. What? In a way, Macrocosmos may even be a team worse than Yell, since there is no reason for this irrelevant plot point to exist. They create so much chaos for a problem 1,000 years away that just can't be justified. On to Tier D. Not the worst, but definitely not the best. And first up for this entry, we have Team Snag'em. Here, a fan claims that the new generation Pokemon games had so much potential, enough so to possess two whole villain teams. Alas, one of them did nothing remarkable, so you win some, you lose some. They did end up on this list, perhaps due to their initial strength being weaned out of them the more the game was played. But let's award credit where it is due, like the team leader being one of the most interesting protagonists initially from a villain team possibly ever. Wes is a genuine delight to play as due to the complexity of his arc. If you've forgotten, Wes was actually initially part of a villain team, Snag'em to be specific, where he would steal Pokemon for people and then force them to fight for evil. While we do find out that Wes always evolved Pokemon using friendship rather than pain, it's still not a good look. He is still a criminal after all. Anyway, his heroic arc begins when he leaves Snag'em out of disgust. This particular side of Pokemon talks about a legitimate darker side of Pokemon lore that many games tend not to touch on, and for that reason, and that reason solely, Team Snag'em has been booted up. Now then, let's talk about Team Plasma. You must have known this was coming if you're in any way a Pokemon fan, and you'd also know that we aren't talking about the OG Plasma. No way. We're talking about the washed-up Team Plasma wannabes. These mask-wearing, ninja-looking dudes are what could be considered what's left of a good idea when you try too hard to make it relevant again. Their motivations are just not as inspiring or justifiable as the original, nor are they particularly inspiring, so it's easy to see why they'd land themselves next to last on this list. Honestly, the whole thing they have going for them might have been the shining pirate ship. Who wouldn't want to be aboard that? They may be above Tier F, but that is to be credited solely to their flair for the dramatics and devastating style. Also, Coltress, of course. On to Tier C, who caused little impact, but were memorable enough regardless. And of course, we can't complete this list without Team Galactic. C-tier villains in the Pokemon-verse are known to be ones that are often forgotten, in a sense of the word, due to their lack of originality or defined goals. Team Galactic fits that criteria pretty well, apparently, as their goals are vague as can be, and team leader Cirrus is not exactly a strong villain with interesting motivations. Just to break it down, by the way, the goal of the team in particular is to create a new universe where their leader could become world president or world king or something. How original. As if the bad guy 101 doesn't involve having the world domination trait. Now, we suppose they do have something going for them, in that Cirrus had a dark and tragic past, and is at least a good enough friend to his Pokemon to have it evolve from a Golbat to a Crobat, but even that can't forgive the horrid and lazy motivations of the character. His bad guy past includes being depressed, which, let's be real, does not raise the stakes high enough to be interesting. Let's move on to Tier B and A. You get the gist. These tiers are combined because sometimes sorting things is hard, and a lot of opinions just came down to these teams lying somewhere on the tier A and B distinction. What teams, you ask? Well, first up, Team Magma and Team Aqua. Many may believe that these teams aren't as tier A as they may seem, since the team leaders for both, despite being described as smart, do nothing to prove it. Others believe that the two carry a level of nostalgia that stays unrivaled. The fights they have with protagonists are fun and high energy, and while most teams have their own separate storyline within a game, Magma and Aqua coexist in their regions with opposite, yet still evil, goals. Their fight, with the protagonists as well as each other, adds a layer of fun usually missing from the game. Now let's talk about Team Plasma, a definite tier A. Let's be real, the team is tier A solely because of two characters on the team itself, N and Getsis. N, for one, has become a beloved fan favorite in a cult-like fandom, all due to his unique yet complex backstory. That, combined with his weird, eccentric personality, gives him an edge over all other villains in most of these games, it seems. Getsis, on the other hand, exists as an evil team leader. He, for one, is not considered a likable character, though he is formidable, that can't be denied. He's the evil guy pulling the strings, all the while being an abusive father to N, adding to his tragic backstory. His place in the fandom comes from his sinister unlikability. That, combined with his insane skills that always lead to fun and formidable battles, is a level of evil that sets him apart from all other nefarious characters in these games. Now what you've been waiting for, the S tier. Okay, so you know this was coming, right? Both Team Skull and Team Rocket have landed themselves here, and that is no surprise. Team Skull was a fresh take on a villain team, and that's clearly something the fandom appreciated. They were introduced to Sun and Moon, and were adorned by the fandom for their hilarious arm movements and wannabe gangster aesthetics. The one thing about Team Skull is that they weren't ever technically evil, you know? They were just a team of teenagers that seemed to be lost together and found comfort and community in crime. Their leader, Guzma, is still particularly popular in the fandom, as it was hinted that he had big ambitions but fell from grace. Team Rocket, also a force to be reckoned with, doesn't even need an introduction. Perhaps the most popular and most deserving Team Rocket has it all. Team Rocket is classic, nostalgic, and unforgettable. They're part of practically every game and for a reason. And that is all for this video. Do you agree with the tier ranking? Let us know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed watching the video, be sure to leave a like and share the video. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications by pressing the bell icon to get notified every time we post a new video. And we will see you next time. Thank you for watching.